Hey guys, just wanted to make a very quick video on what I have been up to for the past couple of months. A lot of you who are regulars to the channel would have noticed that the last time we uploaded a video was back in September. We stopped at episode 45, and after that, we haven't really been uploading a whole lot. And the reason for that is because life got in the way. My dad unfortunately has not been well. He's going through treatment, and so I've had to put a lot of things on hold to try and take care of him and do my duty as a son. And so in the meantime, a funny thing happened that after working 3 years to get the whole channel monetized, YouTube decided to pull the plug on further monetization of videos, because if you're not a regular uploader, you're no longer eligible to be part of the YouTube partner program, etc. So in Bengali we have a phrase for this, baddo hoye এটা করতে হচ্ছে, as in I'm compelled to do this in order to get back on the horse and go back to those eligibility criteria that they've put in place. At the moment, I'm not in Dhaka. I'm actually staying in New York City while my dad gets his treatment done. And I decided that I would probably take this time to show you guys what I've been reading at the moment. And just before I get into the books that I am reading at the moment, I should probably just also mention that it's become a lot more challenging for me to go through the usual number of books that I do. I made it a habit to read anywhere between 50 to 100 books a year, and I'm able to do that from a place of privilege because I have my own business back in Bangladesh, and it's something that takes up a little bit of my time, but it also leaves me a lot of time to do my own reading. And it is because of the amount of reading that I do that I decided to reach out to authors about their books, and that's what morphed into Book Cafe podcast. And it's done a lot better than I would have imagined. Just talking to my authors was in itself such a huge privilege. But the fact that the channel actually did become monetized and I was able to create content that was interesting to all of you really made me feel glad that I was able to contribute to the world in a meaningful way. And I think that there's nothing better than having books to go through and to discuss with all of y'all out there. So at the moment, New York City is a very interesting city. It has a very deep and rich history, which I wasn't aware of. But I've really taken a liking to living here and staying here. And hopefully for the foreseeable future, I'll be able to bring you a lot of new content with new authors that I might happen to meet while strolling down the streets of Manhattan, Queens, Brooklyn, and the Bronx, and maybe even Staten Island, although that's like the black sheep that never gets talked about. But let me show you guys a couple of books that I bought while staying here. And the first one is called New York City, A Short History by George J. Lankevich. And this is an incredible book. I've really enjoyed reading it. I haven't finished reading it, but it talks about New York City and how it was developed or settled first as a Dutch colony, and prior to colonial times it was of course inhabited by many Native American tribes, and obviously their history is never really talked about at length because a lot of it seems to be either lost or forgotten intentionally. New York City, anybody who's lived here or visited would know that it follows a very interesting grid system where you have streets and avenues that make up a grid that goes from north to south. And because the city was first settled by the Dutch in the south. A lot of the streets and avenues over there south of Houston Street is a bit haphazard, but if you move north from Houston Street, you'll find that everything follows very neatly into a grid pattern. So this book talks a lot about that. The commissioner's plan of 1811, which made this famous grid pattern, and every single street and avenue follows it except for one, which is Broadway. It curls up like a snake from north to south or south to north. It doesn't follow the grid system, and that leads to a lot of interesting things. So for example, you have the Flatiron building that intersects between, I think, was it Fifth Avenue and Broadway, and because of how dense it is, it makes an interesting triangular shape that looks like a pizza slice or a flat iron. So another book that I haven't started reading yet is When the Astors Owned New York, and this particular book was written by Justin Kaplan, a Pulitzer Prize-winning author of Mr. Clemens and Mark Twain. Interesting. Obviously, as we all know, Mark Twain is the pen name of Samuel Langhorne Clemens, so maybe that's also a book worth reading about. But as far as the Astors go, you're a very influential family that lived in New York in the Gilded Age, and anybody who's familiar with the Gilded Age would know that that's essentially the late 1800s. I think it was after the American Civil War that particular time period is known as the Gilded Age. There's even a very interesting TV series that is out with of the same name. But the phrase "the Gilded Age" was first coined by Mark Twain. It was actually a novel that he wrote, and so that entire time period is referred to as the Gilded Age. And the Astors of New York lived during that time. So I suppose so the subtitle of the book, When the Astors Owned New York, is in fact Blue Bloods and Grand Hotels in a Gilded Age. So that's kind of the time when New York was taking off as a mega city. It was in 1898 that New York's 5 boroughs, Queens, Brooklyn, the Bronx, Manhattan, and Staten Island were all came together to create what we know as the city of New York. And that was the time when the population of the city started to grow a lot, and it became the second most populous city in the world after London, the imperial capital of the British Empire. And so New York just started to go into the ascendancy because of its unique geography, which made it a great place for shipping in North America, and cross-continental access, very important. So I suppose I haven't started reading this book yet, but I can guess from the title and the age that it talks about that it obviously is a very good read. And it's not a very big read either. It's probably just about 200 pages or so. The next book, which I still haven't started to read, is Ask a Native New Yorker by Jake Dobkin, co-founder of Gothamist. So I suppose this particular book is something I picked up because I'm living in New York now. I want to integrate myself with the city and see what it's like. I have a lot of questions as to how to survive the city, how to thrive in the city, and that in fact is the subtitle of the book, Hard-Earned Advice on Surviving and Thriving in the Big City. So I would highly recommend it just because it's such an interesting title, but don't hold me to it because I haven't read the book yet. The next book that I have here is called The New Yorkers by Sam Roberts. He works for the New York Times. And it's about 31 remarkable people, 400 years, and the untold biography of the world's greatest city. So I have no problems with calling New York a great city. Is it the greatest city? Maybe that's still up for debate. I think every city is a great city in its own way, and I'm pretty sure that because it's such a cultural capital, hence the reason why it's referred to as such. But I think Dhaka is a pretty good city. It may not be a great city, but I like it just fine. It's home, and hopefully this mega city becomes a second home. Okay, so another book that I have with me is called The Fall of a Great American City, New York and the Urban Crisis of Affluence by Kevin Baker. And I suppose this, right on the heels of the other book, would help to explain why New York may or may not be a great city anymore. Because, it's probably become very expensive to live here. It's become less attractive for people to come and live here, but it still holds a lot for, new immigrants and people who are visiting and looking to put the roots down here. So it has something to offer everybody. I was really surprised by how large the Bangladeshi community in New York is. It makes me feel like I'm still at home. And I remember that there was a time when I was in college that I used to kind of avoid other Bangladeshis because I wanted to get to know the rest of the world and people from all over the world. So I just left Bangladesh as a college student, so why would I want to go and meet more Bangladeshis outside of Bangladesh? But at this age, in my 40s, I actually feel a lot happier when I meet other Bangladeshis or other people of South Asian descent, because there's a kind of familiarity. I have an interest in how they're doing in other parts of the world, and I hope that they're thriving really well, because that's what I like to see, because I've got a lot more paternalistic with age, and I suppose that's only a good thing. And so finally the last book that I have with me at the moment with regards to New York City is called The Cat Men of Gotham, Tales of Feline Friendships in Old New York by Peggy, Gavan. And this is a book that I am in fact reading. I kind of swiped it from the hospital where my father is getting his treatment, but I do intend to return it because that particular hospital is so aesthetically pleasing that they've got books and paintings everywhere, and it doesn't feel like a hospital at all. It also has open access to it. I'm not going to mention the name of it, but I definitely do intend to read this and then give it back, because my wife and I have 3 cats of our own, so this was a title that really appealed to me. But I haven't finished it yet, but having read almost 50% of it, I have to say that it's a very interesting take on how people used to treat cats maybe even 100 years back. Some of the stories can be very deeply depressing because it talks about a lot of negative things that were done to cats, like, I'm probably not even going to mention it or spoil it for anybody, but it's a bit of a tough read, and the author herself, to me at least on first glance, didn't come across as somebody who was a cat owner. She seemed very distanced or non-empathetic when it came to the treatment of cats in New York about 100 years ago. Or perhaps that's also perhaps she really is into cats, and that was the only way she could desensitize herself from writing about the cats so nonchalantly, whether it's something negative or positive. But at the end of the day, there's a lot of positive stories as well in this book, which is worth reading. And it's probably a very, very unique book, because I've never come across something like this ever, where felines take center stage in a book about a mega city as grand and as great as New York. As for those wondering what the word Gotham means here, so Gotham is obviously, anybody who's a comic book fan would know that Gotham City is the home of Batman, the DC Comics character, and Gotham is essentially another name for New York. And I personally think that The Cat Men of New York would have probably been a better title for the book. I'm not sure why she chose to go with Gotham, or why her publishers chose to go with Gotham, because Gotham stirs up memories of Batman, and I prefer, and I think that as far as brand value goes, New York is way more familiar than the word Gotham, than the name Gotham. So that's pretty much it from me for today. I do promise to bring in more new authors as soon as I'm done settling in a bit in New York City. I do promise to do my best to bring in as many interesting authors and as many interesting books as possible. But as I said, that since I'm working now as a full-time caregiver for my dad and trying to run a business remotely in Bangladesh, it can be very challenging at times to even find time to read, let alone record podcasts. But in the event that I'm unable to do so, I will continue to bring you such interesting videos which will not have an episode number, but these can be considered as bonus content. So I really hope that the channel takes off once again after this abrupt stop, because as I said, life got in the way. And I want to just take this moment to also thank all of you fans out there, fans of the channel, who've been loyal to us and who've given us your time and thought that this was a channel worth listening to and that there's something interesting to learn from it. I do thank you once again from the bottom of my heart. Stay well, stay blessed, and I'll see you next time.